Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're cracking open something a little bit different for us. We're looking at the creative process itself, specifically that head-on collision you get in novel writing, where this free-flowing art just slams into the
Yeah.
cold, hard need for structure.
It's a classic problem. You start writing scenes, you get excited, and then suddenly you've got plot holes you could drive a truck through.
Exactly. Or, a character does something that just completely contradicts who they are.
hmm
So our mission today is to explore this really rigorous, systematic 10-step planning process. It's designed to solve all that chaos before you even draft chapter one. Every writer knows that feeling.
Mm.
You've got this incredible idea, right? A whole world, a character you love, a premise that just clicks.
hmm
And then you sit down, you open that blank document, and you just see this mountain. And that great idea suddenly feels terrifying.
You really do.
You either freeze up completely or you write, I don't know, 50,000 words and then realize you have absolutely no idea where you're going.
And that feeling, that overwhelming chaos, usually comes from trying to discover the story as you write it. It's what people call pantsing, writing by the seat of your pants.
Oh.
For this deep dive, we're looking at the ultimate antidote to that chaos. It's called the Snowflake Method. It's a very structured 10-step solution. It's designed not just to outline, but to break the whole process down into these manageable, interconnected tasks.
So it's a framework for writers who, they crave clarity, but the thought of outlining 60 chapters from the get-go is just, it's too much. So our mission today is to unpack this whole thing, to show you how it scales a story from just one single sentence, like a geometric snowflake, all the way up to a full manuscript. It's about using structure to fuel creativity, not kill it. The thing that really jumps out at me right away is the scaling principle. It starts so small, you're not asked to write a novel, you're asked to commit for, 15 minutes?
That's the genius of it. That low barrier to entry is how you beat procrastination. And step one is the most concise of all, the elevator pitch.
Okay.
The rule is really strict. You have to condense your entire novel, the protagonist, the main challenge, what makes it unique, into one single sentence, 15 words max.
15 words. That's
Yeah.
that's an intense constraint. I mean, what's the value in being that brief?
It forces you to find the absolute core of your story, the central conflict, the commercial hook. It has to be there from the start.
Right.
If you can't make your idea sound compelling in 15 words, it probably doesn't have a strong enough dramatic question yet. I mean, the source material gives a great example.
Give us that one.
A reclusive mathematician discovers a pattern in stock market fluctuations that makes her a target of international conspiracies.
Okay, yeah, you get it instantly.
Yeah.
Character, conflict, stakes, it's all there.
That sentence is your story's DNA. And then in step two, you immediately start to expand on it. This step takes about an hour, and it's called the 3-act roadmap.
So you take that DNA and you grow it a little.
You grow it into a 5-sentence paragraph. It's your narrative skeleton. The first sentence is the setup, the character's normal world, and then the next 3 are your big turning points.
So sentences 2, 3, and 4 are the main action beats.
They are. They map your 3 acts perfectly. Sentence 2 is that first major turning point, the end of Act 1, the point of no return.
Got it.
Sentence 3 is the midpoint, which should be some kind of huge reversal or revelation. And sentence 4 is the act. 2 climax, the final disaster before the end.
And sentence 5 is the resolution.
The resolution, yeah. You've got a complete story arc in just 5 lines.
So we've got this tiny plot skeleton, and then before we even add more plot details, we jump to character. That's step 3. And this is a bigger time commitment, right?
Yeah.
A couple of hours for each major character.
A couple of hours per character, yes, because you need to know what drives them really early on. And this isn't just, what they look like.
No.
You have to define 5 key things. Their abstract motivation, what they truly need deep down, their concrete goal, what they want in the story, the conflict, what's stopping them, their epiphany, how they're going to change, and then finally, a 1-paragraph summary of their personal storyline.
Okay, but why now? That seems like a really big investment so early. If we have the 5-sentence roadmap, why dig this deep into character before we even have a 1-page synopsis?
Because your characters are your ultimate plot-proofing tool. If a character's motivation doesn't actually line up with the actions you've planned for them, you find that out now, when it's easy to fix.
I see.
It ensures your characters are driving the plot because of who they are, not just because you need them to. If your hero's goal contradicts their core motivation, the whole story will feel forced later.
That's a great point. So you're stress testing the structure from step 2 with the people from step 3. You're making sure the story feels real before you commit any more time to it.
Exactly. And now the method shifts gears a bit. We're moving from those foundational ideas into the detailed narrative flow. The commitment really ramps up here at step 4, the one-page synopsis.
And this sounds like the first really heavy lift.
It is. It's a crucial turning point. You take those 5 sentences from step 2 and you expand each one into a full, solid paragraph.
And there's a rule here too, isn't there, about how the paragraphs have to end.
A very important one. Every paragraph, except for the final one, has to end in a disaster, a turning point, a catastrophic reveal, something that raises the stakes.
So you're building that rhythm of rising tension right into the outline itself. It stops you from writing that dreaded, saggy middle.
It forces narrative escalation. And at the end, you have about a 1 or 2 page document that details the entire story's flow.
And from there, you go back to character again.
You do. Step 5 is character immersion. You pause the structural work for a day, and you dive back into psychology.
But we already did the character summaries back in step 3. What's different now?
In step 5, you write a full 1-page description of the entire story. Not just their arc, the whole plot, from the point of view of each major character. Maybe a half page for minor ones.
Wait, you rewrite the whole synopsis multiple times. Why?
Because this is the step that turns them from plot devices into 3-dimensional people. It forces you to understand how a single event feels completely different to different people.
Right.
Your hero might see a scene as a total failure, but the villain sees it as a calculated, necessary loss. It reveals their biases, their secret agendas, and honestly, it often shows you huge plot holes that you'd never see from a third-person outline because you suddenly realize, oh, this character would never actually react that way.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got the 1-page synopsis, we've done the perspective check. Now what?
Now comes step 6, and this is where the commitment, it really explodes, the comprehensive treatment. You take that 1-page synopsis and expand it to about 4 pages. This can take anywhere from a week to a month of work.
A 4-page outline. Wow.
This is where you define the story at its deepest level before you even think about writing prose. You're dedicating roughly 1 page to each major section of the story.
So like 1 page for the setup, 1 for the first half, the middle.
Exactly. You flesh out all the subplots, the secondary character arcs, you check all the plot logic, you plan the reversals and the emotional shifts.
This basically sounds like the final proof of concept document. It's like you're writing the novel, just without all the dialogue and description.
That's a good way to put it. By the time you finish step 6, you have this comprehensive treatment that gives you absolute confidence the story works. Structurally, logically. If an agent asks for a detailed treatment, you'd have it ready to go. It's a huge investment, yes, but it means you won't have a structural collapse 150 pages into your draft. And since that structure is now rock solid, the last few steps are all about drilling down into the granular detail. It's all in service of making the actual drafting phase as smooth as possible. Step 7 circles back to character one last time.
These are the deep dive character charts, so we're going even deeper than before.
Much deeper. We're moving beyond motivation and goals into full-on psychology. You need to know these people inside and out.
So what's on these charts?
A complete backstory, formative experiences, their core desires, their flaws and blind spots, the precise transformation they'll undergo, and how they impact the overall theme. It's exhaustive.
It sounds almost overwhelming. But I guess if you skip this, you could have a really solid plot, but your characters might feel like wooden puppets just going through the motions.
Precisely. This step makes sure the engine of your plot, the people, is sound. And once you have these fully formed characters, you get to step 8, which is the most practical logistical stage of all, the scene-by-scene roadmap.
Okay, this is where you take that 4-page synopsis and turn it into a spreadsheet.
A spreadsheet, a list, whatever works for you. But yes, you are listing every single scene in the entire novel. This can take a couple of weeks.
You're really shifting from being a creative artist to being a project manager here.
Yeah.
So what information has to be in this scene list?
The source specifies 4 key things for each scene. First, the point of view character. That keeps your perspective consistent. Second, a brief summary of the action, like what you'd write on an index card.
Okay.
Third, the expected word count. This is huge for pacing. And fourth, the most important one, the narrative purpose.
What do you mean by that?
You have to explicitly state why this scene exists. Does it advance the plot? Does it reveal character? Does it establish theme? If a scene doesn't have a clear purpose, you cut it.
That narrative purpose rule, that's a killer. It stops you from writing scenes just because they're cool, but don't actually move the story forward. But here's the big question for me. If you map out every single scene in step 8, doesn't that just kill the magic? Doesn't it stifle all the spontaneous creativity that happens when you're actually writing?
That is the classic and very valid concern, the structure versus discovery debate. But the philosophy of the Snowflake method is that structure actually enables creativity. It frees it up
So
by removing the anxiety of not knowing where you're going. When you know the destination, you are creatively free to find the most interesting, beautiful path to get there. Step 8 defines the necessary story beats, but it doesn't dictate the dialogue, the sensory details. That's all still open for that in-the-zone flow state writing.
that's a helpful way to look at it. And that roadmap leads right into step 9, the prototype draft.
Right. This takes about a month, and you're not writing final prose. You're writing a detailed storyboard in prose form, a narrative description for each scene, with dialogue snippets, emotional beats. You're testing the flow and the feel of it.
So the real benefit is catching problems early.
It's totally cost-saving in terms of time. You find the pacing issues, the awkward transitions, the scenes that lack impact before you've spent 6 months polishing every sentence. You fix the mistakes when they're cheap to fix.
Which brings us to the final step. Step 10, the confident draft, the actual writing.
At this point, the writing process, which might take anywhere from 3 to 12 months, is mostly translation. You are translating a detailed, tested plan into beautiful prose. It's faster, it's way less stressful, and writer's block is much less of an issue because the really hard architectural work is already done. Hashtag, tag, tag, out, outro. I mean, at the end of the day, the biggest advantage for you, the writer, is just realizing that this kind of methodical approach leads to cleaner first drafts. It just does. You get more cohesive storytelling because you've done all that hard structural work up front.
It changes the whole process from this, terrifying endless marathon into a series of manageable sprints. It really helps with that initial feeling of being totally overwhelmed.
For sure.
And even though it sounds so rigid, 10 steps, spreadsheets, all these rules, it's important to remember that it's a framework that's meant to serve your creativity, not lock it in a cage. You can adapt it. You can use software like Scrivener or Plotter, or you can mix and match it with other methods like the 3-act structure.
It's a tool set, not a prison.
Okay.
But it is funny, the source material still says that even after all this planning, you have to remain open to inspiration when you're writing that final draft.
And that's the real tension, isn't it? That's what every writer has to navigate. If you have meticulously planned every single beat of your novel, from that first sentence all the way down to a scene-by-scene roadmap, how do you balance your commitment to that plan with those sudden, unexpected creative sparks that only show up when you're deep in the prose? Do you stick to the plan, or do you follow the muse? Something for you to think about as you start building your own literary snowflake. Until next time, keep diving deep into the details.